Hello, everyone, and thanks to the organizers of this panel who asked me to be present and also who arranged for me to give my remarks in this format. I'm really sorry that I can't be there with you, but in spirit and solidarity, I'm so proud to be working again with Donalisa Fisher, with Samir Mageli, and as always with Davy D. Cook and Chuck. So I'm just going to get right to it, y'all, and tell you that I think we have some serious opportunities for serious people as we consider the link between hip hop, race, and citizenship. And I want to start with the reality that people of color and poor people face at this very moment in history. And I want to tell you how I think this reality connects us. And then I'll say something about the possibilities I see here. And I just want to say to you all, especially students there, that if you want to wage a serious struggle, you better do your homework and wage some serious study of how this economy and more broadly how this infrastructure was designed to keep aggrieved people out and how it is working better than ever today. And I don't just mean your opinion. I mean you have to know the material reality of what we have here today. And this powerful topic that we're discussing on this panel about race, about hip hop, about citizenship has particular relevance to multiracial struggles, both historically and also in terms of our future possibilities, but not without you being fluent in the knowledge of how oppression works, and not without you being fluent in the languages of the oppressed, even when those languages can perpetuate some serious misconceptions. So let me just start with the first issue here, the state we find ourselves in. All around us, we see the terrible damage that's been exacted on our communities. We see evidence of how Black and brown people in particular encounter the current economic crisis. And there's a heartbreaking reality that faces us. The national unemployment rate for Blacks as of December 2010 was 15.8%. It was 13% for Latinos, 8.5% for whites. In at least 5 states, Black people who are unemployed, this number, Black unemployment, has surpassed 20%. The poverty rate for Black children is predicted to reach as much as 50% this year, which is actually a 16% increase since 2008. The leaders of the state of California have worked harder in the past 3 years to dismantle the Healthy Families Program, the Adult Day healthcare programs, the CalWorks program, the Cash Assistance Program for immigrants, the California Food Assistance Program, and emergency services for immigrants. They've worked harder to dismantle that than they have to discern a solution. And even though there's no difference in why we face this crisis today from why we've always struggled within a context that privileges private gain over public good, this why has reached a new level of sophisticated and calculated malice. There's really no other way to say it than to just be clear about what it is, which is really just a stupefying audacity with which individuals, government agencies, and corporations evade accountability for and continue to profit from their role in the reversal of the very limited gains that we have made, especially poor people and people of color over the past 2 decades. There is such blatant disregard right now for the suffering of historically aggrieved communities. In 2010, Blacks earned 62 cents for every dollar of white income, and Latinos earned 68 cents for every dollar of white income. Blacks and Latinos today are 2.9 and 2.7 times as likely, respectively, to live in poverty as whites. Black and Latino children are 3.3 and 2.9 times as likely, respectively, to live in poverty than white people. My page turner. You'll never guess who my page turner is. Blacks have 10 cents of net worth for every dollar of white net worth, and Latinos have 12 cents of net worth for every dollar of white net worth. So do you see what I'm getting at here in terms of what I mentioned earlier about the particular relevance of this crisis to multiracial and especially to Black-brown struggle? Let me make this a little bit more clear. Over the past 3 years, a renewed backlash against brown people, specifically Mexican immigrants, has found a foothold in a debate that has its roots in Dred Scott and its legacy in Arizona's SB 1070 and more recently in Georgia's HB 87. there's some scholars, and I'm going to kind of follow in their footsteps for the moment, who make this connection between the Dred Scott decision in 1857 and the renewed xenophobia that characterizes anti-immigrant backlash. And one of the scholars I admire, Haney Lopez, has said it in a very useful way. He says that in the campaign for the control of our borders, we're once again debating the citizenship of the native born and the merits of Dred Scott. Because you see, in Dred Scott, in which a slave sued for his freedom and that of his wife's freedom as well, based in part on the directives of the Missouri Compromise, but lost anyway because he was black and therefore had no right to sue, the Supreme Court read the Constitution to mean that citizenship was too precious to be shared with Americans of African descent. As a result, the U.S. Supreme Court ended up reading that the Constitution to say that they were able to declare that all blacks, free and enslaved, are not and can never be citizens because they are subordinate and inferior class of beings. It was this sentiment that was built into the infrastructure of our country that made the 14th Amendment a paper law just 11 years later. Black people became citizens with the 14th Amendment in 1868. For those of you who know, we should all know this history. And black men got the right to vote in 1870 with the 15th Amendment. But in most areas of the country, neither amendment was put into practice until the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act of 64 and 65, 1964 and 65, respectively. So for all of those people who argue that the level playing field finally arrived with the election of Barack Obama, let's not forget that most blacks have only been voting since 1965. So now we're having the same debate, this time about brown people, and brown people that are undocumented, but also brown people that are documented, that are born in the United States. Just at the beginning of this very school year, 2010-2011, the current Arizona Attorney General, who was formerly the Arizona Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tom Horn, you should know people's names too, Tom Horn, wouldn't allow children to get on the elementary school bus if they couldn't prove their primary residence was north of the border. So your 5 and 6 year olds, your kindergartners, if they're brown, must carry proof of residence to get to kindergarten. 21 states are trying to follow Arizona's lead to illegally arrest and deport people suspected of being undocumented. Politicians and pundits have called upon Congress to consider repealing the 14th Amendment, arguing that the only way to end illegal immigration is to deny citizenship to U.S.-born children of undocumented immigrants. The point of this, if you really want to get down to the nuts and nails of the issue, is something that another legal scholar has put so well. It has always been easier, it will always be easier to think of someone as a non-citizen than to decide that he's a non-person, which is the point of the Dred Scott decision. Now, even though a lot of times we are reviled by other people, and I mean that in the most stark way, our communities, our very personhoods are reviled by others, our human and social worth should no longer be taken for granted, least of all in our own communities. So the increasingly malicious language that pervades popular media representations of our communities can serve in many ways to disqualify us from productive and meaningful futures, and it makes it even more difficult not to take the history of our mutual struggles for granted. We're subjected to the constant characterization of black-brown relations as nothing but toxic. Certainly, our communities have problems with each other. That's real. That's just real talk. But we have more time together working for change. We've had more successes than we've had failures together, and we get further together than we do apart. We have to have this vision, one that's largely based on past struggles that we've already waged and fights that we've already won. So why do we continue to allow other people to tell us our own histories? We who have struggled together already have a past filled with our own articulations, filled with our own prescriptions about how to achieve a future that's based on human dignity and social equity. So we really can't go forward without understanding the connected politics of our past. And this brings me to my last point. We would do well to recognize this terrible moment for our communities as an opportunity. Some people already do. Interracial coalitions in more than 17 states have passed official boycotts of the state of Arizona. Just because we don't see these reports on television doesn't mean that they aren't happening. And also that there isn't a renewed energy in Black-Brown affiliation and struggle. Well, just 2 days ago, in fact, 15 minutes before a board meeting in Tucson, Arizona, to determine the fate of ethnic studies in public schools was set to start, a multiracial coalition of students stormed the stage, chained themselves to the board members' chairs, and as protesters filled the room. They were protesting HB 2281, which makes it illegal to teach ethnic studies in public education in Arizona. The students shut down the meeting, and they have vowed to continue to pressure the district to back off of the resolution. There are many, many other examples of this kind of direct action all across the nation. I can't see you right now, but I assume you're here, that you came to this panel because you care about these issues. Frantz Fanon once said to all of us, and it's very useful even today, that if all you do is support change with your heart, you'll feel better, but nothing will ever change. So don't just be a fan of hip-hop and the politics of possibility. See where expressive culture links up with radical struggle. See how you're implicated in the problem and in the solution. Where is your contribution? What will it be? Thank you, everyone. Again, y pa'lante, siempre.